Hi, my name is Leah Day, and welcome to this video for the Building Blocks Quilt Along. Today we're piecing a new block. This is block number 7, and it is a disappearing 9-patch. So it might not look like it, but this block started out looking a lot more like block number 2. Then we sliced it up and pieced the pieces back together again and came up with something that looked like this. So this is going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be a really interesting technique, and we'll learn a different way of piecing a 9-patch. So let's get started. Here's the 9-patch that we're going to get started on, and basically I cut this one as all separate pieces. So you'll need 5 of your fabric B's, your background fabric, and you'll need 4 of these fabric A's, the blue kind of fashion fabric, if you want to call it that. How I'm piecing this, I decided to piece this all in individual pieces rather than strip piecing, simply to give you another way of putting this together. So it's very, very simple. All you're going to do is go down the rows and place one fabric on top of the other. Just like that. Now take these to the machine and stitch through every single one of them and chain piece them together with nice, accurate 1/4 of an inch seams right along this edge. So here we go. I'm just aligning this just the same way we have all year, really carefully aligning those 2 edges together, lifting my presser foot slightly, dropping it down right on top of those pieces, and stitching through. Whenever you stitch off of one piece, go on ahead and get the next set being aligned. So just get these in nice alignment. You don't have to rush through this. Your machine is just fine with the needle in the down position. Nothing's going to change there. So take your time getting these pieces together and nicely arranged before you slide them under the foot and get started piecing. Okay, after piecing these, you should have a chain of 3 block units, just like this, these 2-piece units. And it doesn't matter if you get these out of order because they're just 2 pieces put together, so you can always kind of flip them around if you need to. If they get out of order, that's fine. Okay, you don't need to press these open yet because you can go on ahead and piece these pieces to these pieces, and that seam doesn't come into play. So go on ahead and arrange your left-hand pieces on top of each block unit and stitch this seam, and then we'll take everything and press the seams open. So this works the exact same way as before. Just align that edge and piece through with a nice, accurate 1/4 of an inch seam allowance. Okay, at this point you should have 3 sets of units that have 3 blocks, 3 squares in each. So cut these apart. Go on ahead and finger press these seam allowances open, and then we'll take them to the iron and give them a nice press so they're nice and flat. Do that for every single piece. Okay, with my pieces nicely pressed, I'm going to arrange the 9-patch again. And this is going to work exactly like block number 2. We're going to take one one row of piece blocks, lay it on top of the other, and work to get these seams in nice alignment before penning. So here I'm going to do the exact same matching seams. I'm going to pinch right there where those seams come together, kind of pull down and look at that, making sure that that's in very nice alignment. Putting a lot of pressure on my thumb and my index finger here to keep that in nice alignment and make subtle changes. You know, just kind of wiggle it around until it's right where I want it. And I place that pen right there. And do the same thing for the other seam. Once everything's aligned and you're happy with it, just start piecing. Now here's a situation you want to watch out for. You see how the seam allowance, you might not be able to see because it's dark fabric, but the seam allowance is just lifting up a little bit. So I lift the presser foot and kind of slide my seam ripper under there, just kind of lay that seam allowance down. You want it to behave. Sometimes you have to lift your presser foot and just gently press it down. A seam ripper is really nice, or a stiletto, either of those work great. This is the reason why you don't want to kind of speed through this. You want to take your time stitching over these seams. And the nice thing about it is, with this block, even if these seams aren't perfect, it's not very noticeable because we're just going to slice this apart once it's all together. Okay, at this point, these two pieces are put together. You want to make sure that you have this in proper arrangement. It's kind of easier than you'd think to do something like that, so make sure you've got this piece in the middle, so you're making a nice checkerboard. Going ahead and match and piece this last seam just exactly the same way that you did the previous one. Okay, with that, our 9 patch is pieced, and you want to, of course, finger press these seam allowances open and then give them a good press with your iron. Another thing to double check, just while it's in this state, is going ahead and place a ruler on top of it. This actually, after you press the seam allowances, it'll be more accurate then. Place your ruler on top and make sure that this measures out at 11 inches square. That's what size it should be before we cut it down. So double check that, press your seams open, and then we'll be ready for the next step. Okay, so here's our block and it's ready to go, and I'm just double checking the size, and it is 11 inches square. That's perfect. That's exactly what we want. So I'm going to take the ruler over here and line up the 5.5 inch mark. It's 11 inches, so halfway, right down the middle of the block, it's going to be right on the 5.5 inch mark. So I'm going to line up a line with that. I'm also going to line up 2 lines within the ruler with these piecing lines. And that way I'm sure that this is totally straight and square. So just line all of that up. Press down on your ruler and cut right across your block. And yes, that's kind of scary to cut your block that you just pieced in half, but it's okay. It's going to be fine. Rotate it around, and now we're going to do the exact same thing again. Lining this up on the 5.5 inch mark, lining up 2 piecing lines, and it's really helpful if you don't start shifting this around and wiggling with it. As long as it doesn't move, it's perfectly fine. That looks good. Slice through the middle. Okay, so now we're going to make this 9 patch disappear, and we do this very simply. I'm just going to take this piece and rotate it, and I'm going to take this piece and rotate it, and there's our block. We're going to piece these pieces together. Just place this piece on top, aligning this edge, stitch that with a 1/4 inch seam, do the same thing for this one. And the nice thing about this there's no seams to match. You really don't have to get too obsessive with this. There's no seams to match. It comes together really easily now. So I'm just buzzing right through these. There's no seams to match on this. It's very, very easy piecing. I love the disappearing 9 patch idea, the whole idea behind it. You know, piece something traditional, then slice it up and create something completely different that you can't even hardly see that it was a 9 patch before. I think that's so interesting. And the only thing you really have to worry about is just making sure that the two pieces are in good alignment along that edge as you send them through your machine. So here we have our two-piece units. I've already pressed the seam allowances open. You want to make sure that you do that so everything matches up nicely. And all you do is just basically place one piece on top of the other. You will have one seam to match, and that is the center seam. Just simply align those two together, place a pen, and stitch through that last seam. So here we go. Here is our finished disappearing 9-patch block. And you can see how everything comes together. It really creates such a funky design, and you can't really tell that it was once a 9-patch. Make sure to press your center seam open, and then you're going to mark an 8-inch square within this. And notice these nice little narrow channels we're going to be quilting through. This is going to be a lot of fun and very interesting practice for quilting into these tiny areas. It's going to be a lot of fun. So that's it for this video for the Building Blocks Quilt Along. I hope that you'll join me piecing 3 of these disappearing 9-patch blocks, because we're going to learn how to quilt this block many different ways. It's going to be really fun to quilt those little narrow areas. I love little spots like that where I can kind of get in there and fill with something really cool. You can kind of go dense in those areas because it's such a small space without making your block go dense. So it's a lot of fun. We're going to learn a lot about free motion quilting as well this month, so make sure to join in. My name is Leah Day, and this has been a video for the Building Blocks Quilt Along. Pick up your copy of the Building Blocks Quilt Pattern at leahday.com and get started piecing and free motion quilting with us this year. Until next time, let's go quilt.